A monster stuck a bottle into the dungeon. The woman saw it and sucked on the bottle. When the monster saw that Tess was full, the monster moved the bottle to the man's head. The man looks at the strands of hair on the bottle and resists. Tess reminds him to drink or the monster will get angry. When the monster saw that the man wouldn't drink, she took the bottle back. Then she opened the dungeon door and jumped down. She yelled at the man and cursed at him. The man had never experienced such a thing. He was so disgusted that he couldn't help but scream. The monster was completely enraged. She dragged the man by his thighs to the red-lighted room. She threw him on the bed. Then she mounted him. She followed the TV video of mothers breastfeeding and forced the man to drink milk. On the other side, Tess, who had stayed in the dungeon, saw that the monster had left the door unlocked. She picked up the flashlight on the floor and carefully climbed out of the dungeon. Trying not to make any noise, she passes by the monster's room and looks at the man's miserable state. She doesn't help him. She continued to run forward, but accidentally kicked the tape measure on the floor. This alerts the monster in the room. Tess sensed danger. She ran out of the room without a care in the world. She rushed to the basement door, but the door was locked. She had no choice but to return and break the basement glass. Finally, she managed to crawl out. At the crucial moment, a homeless man appeared and pulled her out just in time. Tess looked at the monster at the window. She was still in a state of shock. Luckily, the creature was afraid of the sunlight and didn't come out after her. The homeless man pulled Tess away from the window, said the creature would come back for her. The only way to be safe was to go into the water tower, because the hobo had never seen a monster near a water tower. But Tess, concerned about the man in the dungeon, refused the hobo's offer. She went to a store and called the police. The police arrived a short time later. Tess told them everything. It turns out that a few days ago, Tess rented this house online for work. She had problems the first night she arrived. First, she couldn't find the key to the front door in the combination box. Then, she couldn't reach the agent on the phone. Just as she was about to leave, she saw a man in the house. Tess had the nerve to knock on the door. The man looked at the strange Tess and asked her what she wanted. Tess confirmed with the man that this was 467 Barbary Street. She told him that she had booked the house online and showed the man her rental agreement. She didn't realize that the man said he booked the apartment. Though the two of them saw the confusion in each other's eyes. The man introduced himself as Kate. Seeing that it's getting late, he invites Tess in for a chat. Tess hesitated and decided to go in. Then he said he wanted to see Kate's rental agreement. Kate handed Tess her cell phone. He read it carefully and found nothing unusual. They each contacted a different agent, and it turns out the agent was the same one. Now they still can't reach him. Kate offered to make Tess some tea. She invited her to stay here tonight. There's a conference in town in the next few days, and all the hotels in the neighborhood are full. Tess had the misfortune to look up hotels on the internet, but she found out that none of them had any vacancies. She called again to inquire. After getting the same result, she reluctantly said yes to Kate. Kate was a gentleman, leaving the only bedroom for Tess, and when he found out Tess was a germaphobe, he remade her bed. Gradually, Tess let her guard down. Tess came to the bedroom to rest, but in the middle of the night, Tess found her bedroom door open strangely. She thought Kate was up to no good. She came out to find Kate having a nightmare. She approached him slowly, trying to calm him down, but Kate suddenly woke up. Both of them were shocked, afraid that Kate would take it the wrong way. Tess explained that the door to her room had been left open. She wanted to check with him. Kate was confused. He didn't remember opening the door. After this little incident, Tess went back to her room to rest. Luckily, nothing else weird happened that night. The next day, Tess went out and found the place in a state of disrepair. She decided to leave as soon as she finished her work. After a busy day, she returned to the house, but as soon as she got out of the car, a homeless man came running towards her. Tess takes out her key and opens the door. She hid in the house before the homeless man could catch up with her. Tess immediately called the police, but the police said they were short of staff and couldn't come over at the moment because of the homeless man. Tess didn't dare to go out alone, so she waited for Kate in her room. She went to the bathroom and found no paper. She searched the house, but couldn't find any, so she looked in the basement. She found toilet paper on top of the washing machine, but the door to the basement was suddenly closed. There was no way to open it from the inside. Tess then realized she didn't have her cell phone, no way to contact the outside world. In order to save herself, Tess started rummaging through the basement, hoping to find something she could use. She found a piece of twine behind a jar. The other end of the twine was attached to the wall. Curious, Tess pulls on the twine. As the twine pulled out the clutter, a secret passageway appeared behind it. It was dark inside. Out of caution, Tess didn't go in, but she was too bored to go in alone. She used a mirror to reflect the light and barely illuminated the passage. Cautiously, she went in. At the end of the passage, she found a strange room. Inside was a video camera, a bed and a bucket, and, horror of horrors, a bloody handprint on the wall. Tess was so scared, she ran back to the basement. Just as Kate returned, she tapped on the basement window to get Kate's attention. Kate was able to open the basement window with ease. After being rescued, Tess told Kate what she found in the basement. Kate doesn't believe her and insists on checking it out for herself. When Tess tries to leave, He asks her to wait until he gets out, in case he's trapped in there too. Tess can't still save him in time. Tess thought that Kate should be able to come out soon, so he agreed, but after a long time, Kate didn't come out. She couldn't help but yell out Kate's name from the stairway, but there was no answer. Tess boldly went to the basement and shouted. Still no answer. Behind her, the door slowly closed again, but Tess heard it and stopped it. She brought a wooden stool and jammed it against the door. She stood in the doorway of the cul-de-sac and called out for Kate. She still got no answer. Tess turned on her flashlight and walked down the tunnel. There was no sign of Kate. When she stepped out of the room, she found a deeper tunnel. Tess called out to Kate in a shaky voice. Kate responded quickly and asked for help. Tess hesitated, but went in. Along the way, she found a number of large dog cages. Then Kate crawled out of the darkness and said that someone was trying to get him. As soon as he said that, a figure came out from behind Kate. Her head was grabbed and slammed against the wall. Tess was so terrified that she ended up in the dungeon with the monster. She lived on milk powder fed by the monster. After an unknown period of time, the owner of the house came home. He saw signs of strangers living in the house. Seeing that nothing had been moved, he thought he might be hiding in the basement, so he went to the basement and found the secret door. He was so happy to see the room inside. He quickly searched the internet to see if the basement of the house for sale could be sold for money. After getting a positive answer, he brought a tape measure to calculate the area of the secret passage. Then he also found the secret passage in the dark tunnel. Not only was he not afraid of the gloomy dark tunnel, instead, he continued to measure with excitement, but as he measured, he felt someone pulling on the tape measure. That's when he got scared and ran forward. In his panic, he dropped his flashlight on the floor. When he picked it up, the flashlight was already flickering. Then he saw the monster. He was so scared that he fell into the dungeon. He met Tess, who had been trapped there for who knows how long. Now that Tess has escaped, she goes to the police and wants them to save the man who's still trapped. But the police saw that she was penniless and had no id. They dismissed her pleas for help as nonsense and left without looking back. Meanwhile, the man in the tunnel took the opportunity to escape. Knowing that the monster had gone after Tess, he decided to go in the opposite direction. At the end of the tunnel, he found a room. Miraculously, the monster didn't dare to come near. The man opened the door and saw an old man. He thought the old man was a victim. The man asked him to move the shelf to the bed, which he did. Looking at the videotape on the shelf, he opened it with curiosity. He realizes that the old man is also a pervert. By now, the old man had already picked up a gun and put it to his head to kill himself. On the other side, Tess breaks the glass. She gets the keys and starts the car. She parked in front of the house and waited for the monster to come out. It's not long before the monster shows up at the door. Tess hits the gas and slams the monster into the door. When she passes out, Tess rushes to the dark tunnel to save the man. Two figures are approaching in the darkness. Tess senses someone in front of her, and the next moment, she's shot. The one who hit her was the man who was trapped. After the misunderstanding is solved, the man helps Tess to leave the tunnel. When they arrive at the door, Tess realizes that the monster is gone. Luckily, they run into the homeless man from before. He took them to the water tower and told them the story of the house. Turns out, over 40 years ago, there was a psychopath living in that house. He used to kidnap innocent girls. He would lock them up in dark tunnels and force them to give birth over and over again. These children were disconnected from society. The only thing they had access to was the breastfeeding videos that played on a loop on TV. Over time, a child also becomes a monster. She comes out late at night every day to catch people, but the homeless man assured the two that the monster wouldn't come this way to the water tower. But as soon as he said that, the monster appeared behind him. He was killed by the monster. They ran for their lives, but were blocked by the bars around them. In their panic, they reached the top of the water tower. The man is trying to stay alive. He ignores Tess, who is injured. They left her behind. After climbing to the top of the tower, he remembers he has a gun, but it was useless. He accidentally dropped it. The monster was about to catch up with him. The man had a plan. He grabbed Tess and threw her out of the tower. He gambled Tess' life on the monster's motherly nature, and then buy himself a chance to survive. The monster jumped without hesitation. At this moment, he became a great man. The man picked up the pistol on the ground and slowly approached them. Seeing that Tess is not dead, the man's guilt surges and he frantically apologizes to Tess. But in reality, he's just trying to rationalize his own fault. Just then, the monster suddenly awakens. She choked the man's neck and gouged out his eyes with her fingernails. After completely finishing off the man, the monster looked at Tess with a heartbroken expression. She pointed her finger in the direction of home, as if to say that she would be safe when she returned home. Tess seemed to feel the monster's unspeakable motherly love, but she was not blessed with such a monstrous love. She picks up the gun on the ground and kills the monster. Beyond the usual elements of fear, such as thriller and unknown, this movie is ultimately about the difficulty of women's survival in a male society. However, the movie is smart enough not to put men in opposition to women, and men are not only enemies, but also companions and teammates. But you realize in the end that whether they have good or bad intentions, The very existence of men may be a threat to women. The gender and social status gap determines the attitudes of men and women towards the opposite sex and everyday things, and this attitude ultimately determines the fate of everyone in the movie.